Open up to some questions if you guys have it. I know that there was a few inside there. It says, JP, please show the App Store image for Whisper. There are a couple of them. All right, so I think I will just copy and paste the actual link for Whisper. All right, perfect. What other questions do you guys have? So this is just like the first component, meeting prep and using these tools to copy and paste all the content from all your meetings. What questions do you guys have? Or what are your best practices?
So we've been using Read AI to integrate with our project management platform and also with HubSpot. So is there any kind of automation that you thought about as far as because then we can use the
Workflow
read.
automation.
Yeah, we can use it to say and I don't we haven't figured out how to use sentiment analysis, but I want to use that from our project managers to figure out if the client is starting to get annoyed with them, we're not meeting dates or things like that. So have you seen anything like
Yes.
next steps that are pretty cool to take advantage of that transcription or the video?
Yeah, and if you could write this down, I think one of the things I've been trying to play around with is easy to use workflow automation tools. And the answer is there's no such thing as an easy workflow automation tool. However, like in our company at Hive, we've got a technology platform where customers are going to call the call center.
Mhm.
All those calls are going to get recorded. We are going to convert that audio text into a sentiment analysis and for QA analysis.
Mm.
One of the tools that we use for the actual QA analysis is called Balto. And what Balto will do is you build out your QA protocols for all these calls that are happening, and it will grade, it will score every one of the calls that are being ingested into the model. The other thing that we do is that at Hive, all this data allows us to communicate via chat, email, text message back to the customer. I think by the end of next year, not only the latency, but the tone and quality of AI voice is going to be so good that you will not need call center. We to give you context, we have about 120,000 people applying for a loan every day. So you've got literally tens of thousands of people that are calling or needing to be called. Right now, that ratio is about 200 call center reps for the lenders that we work with that are processing all those calls. Every single year, the number has gone down. The reason why is the automation component, like you're saying, Lyndon, for the workflows from audio to transcription to then being able to actually create an automated message outbound. It's there, but it's not easy to use. So I tried prepping that for this class this month. It was too hard. Now, it wasn't that it was too hard to get it done, but the big thing that I'm trying to do as a takeaway here is I believe, as the CEO of the company, that I need to understand the context so that I can walk the team through the value add, right? Or the monetization of the technology. So the way that I do is I always try to like play around with it. The tools that we've used are make.com. It's one of the tools that I'm going to demo in a later month. Zapier, which is probably the most popular integrated tool out there for workflows, but it's very, very simple. For large enterprises, you've got ServiceNow. So if you've got very large companies globally, ServiceNow has built an empire based on that. Stephen, for certain classified Department of Defense, your local country's military and government, there are workflow tools that Microsoft has that have been already approved. The problem with this whole process is if you're in a hyper-regulated environment, and we're kind of quasi-regulated, we're not the lender of record, so CFPB, payment processing industry are our regulators, so we need to make sure there's auditability. If there are complaints, customer complaints that the lender has for their customers, we got to make sure there's auditability. So we do an automated workflow transcription of every single call that's being done. and that ingests into an AI model that we've built an agent. We're going to go through that later today to actually respond to every single message. We created a compliance agent. I'm literally going to show you how to do that. Every single person on this call can actually do this. It's pretty straightforward. Now, building out the infrastructure for the architecture for live performance for like thousands of customers, that's a whole different conversation. But doing it step by step is pretty good. Unfortunately, Stephen, I know several of you guys work with government or military and DoD type contracting globally. They have the tools that are available. The problem is getting the approval process for the data side. So, Microsoft and Amazon have a government ecosystem. The big consulting firms have that, but honestly, it's a fortune. I'm in the process of convincing my head of infrastructure to partner with Palantir to see how their architecture is. Now, Palantir is obviously a large, it's a company that's very intimidating for a lot of smaller businesses to approach, but they've had such good B2B growth lately, and they have a lot of security protocols that are required for different governmental DoD regulation and stuff like that. Is there an AI tool that is accessible with CAC? Well, I'm not familiar with CAC. Allison, you're going to have to unmute and give us some context on that. And Stephen, while she's unmuting, you can do all local infrastructure processing. It's going to cost you a big fortune to manage it. Coincidentally, one of our weekly updates for the whole company was we had a win where we literally shut down all of our physical servers and migrated. We're now 100% cloud, and we're multi-cloud, multi-data architecture. So we're our main stack for security and for Azure Active Directory to manage all the users is in Microsoft. But we have a piggyback architecture on Amazon, and I play nice with everybody, right? Google has their AI modeling, systems that are pretty good. Google Verdicts that I've used, but the problem is, I think local infrastructure processing for an LLM at any reasonable scale, you're going to have to hire a whole team of engineers, and God forbid they have AI in their title because you just added a zero to their compensation. To build it, manage it in your internal architecture, you're going to have to be a pretty good sized company. You're going to be spending at least several million on staff, team, physical infrastructure to manage that processing. And if that's not a big deal on the cost basis, then you can do it. I don't think that's a big deal. There are plenty of good open source models. ChatGPT on their last release on 5, which was last week, they have an open source structure. Llama, which is owned by Meta, which I never use, also has a really good open source structure. So they do have really good LLM processing for audio transcription. Whisper is open source. It does do local processing. So if you're concerned, hey, I'm going to record my meeting, voice memo is going to be already on the device, but Whisper, you can actually do the transcription on your device, not going to the cloud. So if that's a concern, you can do it. But I'll be honest, the number of employees that you are going to try to control with all of the systems and protocols, it gets harder and harder and harder. So my opinion, what we've done at the company is said, hey, we're going to use these tools. You can put anything that you want on it and encourage it. And at the same time, yes, we've got a lot of PI. I've got 40 million Americans PI, social security numbers, account numbers, routing numbers, a lot of PI, right? So security is going to be a major protocol. I think segregation of those architectures have to happen. You just got to make sure from whether it's SOC 2 compliant type data, PCI compliant data, credit card, debit card, all that type of PI. We have complete segregated architecture between that. But some of the LLMs actually will, when you're authenticating and you're saying, hey, I'm going to log into my account, we are going to use authentication systems, but we always do human in the loop. I know we're going a little bit off track on this, but I do think it's important to have that conversation from a security standpoint. Enterprise level contracts with some of the big LLM players, all the ones I'm going to show you today, do have the security protocols to prevent that data from theoretically going out there. But honestly, I mean, they already stole everybody's data to build this model. So just take that with a grain of salt. All right.
So it's
So,
hey, real quick,
go.
it's this is Stephen. It's really about compliance. So we work in the government sector.
Yep.
And so like some of the tools like you're describing, like the Otter AI, for instance, the things that are built on top of the LLMs are really what I'm concerned about. I know they have models that run in, AWS GovCloud or Azure GovCloud.
Yep.
Like that's all fine, but I'm going to have to obviously research each tool that we would
Yep.
be interested in using to do that workflow to see if they have a FedRAMP approved solution. So that was really more the thrust of my question was if we wanted to do some of the things that you're describing where there's an intermediate service between you and the LLM, what are our options in terms of like would we do that locally?
We do that we do all of the, so yes, all the tools that I'm going to show you are cloud. However, the entire workflow can be done internally on your own servers with open LLM architecture, end to end. I mean, absolutely. And if you look at how our architecture is designed, it is a fully closed environment, especially with end customer type communication. And all of it is on Azure Cloud. So you can get the government architecture approval for that type of workflow. Almost everything that I'm doing. But you're right, Firefly's not going to be on there. Otter's not going to be on there. Most of those tools are. Whisper, like I said, is open source. So it is resident and you can process it straight on your device. And, AWS has their own transcription, Microsoft has their own transcription, and they're all kind of the same. Honestly, they're not that much better. Some people say they've got better than the other. And yeah, I'm sure there's a good competition. You could get the scoring on that. But yeah, end to end, because we deal with a lot of PI, none of that infrastructure is on the cloud, meaning it's not an open cloud. It's on our own internal private cloud at Microsoft Azure. So you can do end to end. You can do it on government. It's just going to cost a lot more because you're going to have to hire all those additional team members to do all the stuff that we're going to do today.